welcome to History 300, the origins of the First World War. Lecture 20, Germany and Russia at the Brink, July the 31st, 1914. It was now Friday, July 31st. In Berlin, Moltke was becoming convinced that the Russians had mobilised against Germany, though he could not get definite proof of this because the border with Russian Poland had been sealed. Definite proof of Russian general mobilisation did not arrive until just before noon in a telegram from Germany's embassy in St. Petersburg. This was the evidence that Moltke needed at last to convince the Kaiser and Bethmann-Hollweg of the need to declare the state of imminent danger of war. German pre-mobilisation began at 3 o'clock that afternoon. The consequences were profound. If no order to halt was given, full German mobilisation, including the invasion of Belgium that was pre-programmed into it, would begin 2 days afterwards. Bethmann-Hollweg agreed to send Russia an ultimatum, demanding that the Russians cease their own mobilisation. A response had to be received by noon on Saturday, August the 1st. The Kaiser, meanwhile, sent another telegram to cousin Nicky requesting that these Russian mobilisation efforts cease. He also sent one to cousin George in England, reassuring the British monarch that he was still committed to mediating a peace. During the late afternoon and evening of the 31st, news of this German partial mobilisation and the ultimatum to Russia began circulating across Europe, along with rather sketchier information about the considerably more secret Russian general mobilisation. There was panic within the financial capitals of the continent as the prospect of war began to sink in. London's stock market closed for the first time since 1773. This was the moment when the British Chancellor David Lloyd George started receiving urgent messages from financiers and businessmen, urging Britain to stay out of any European war. So much, he recalled with amusement in his memoirs, for the belligerent merchants of death. Despite the warnings he had given Berlin that Britain would not stand aside in the event of war between Germany, France and Russia, by July 31st, Sir Edward Grey was in fact still unable to get a definite commitment from his own cabinet colleagues as to what they should do. No consensus existed within the Liberal government. On the hawkish side were Grey himself, Winston Churchill, the First Lord of the Admiralty, and the Prime Minister, Herbert Asquith. Leading the isolationists were Chancellor Lloyd George and John Morley, one of the elder statesmen of the Liberal Party. Morley's opposition was significant, but not necessarily critical. But Lloyd George had a major following within his party. If he resigned in protest from the government, he could well bring it down. Grey, Churchill and Asquith were going to have to persuade Lloyd George to change his mind if they wanted to act. The cabinet adjourned on the 31st, again without any agreement. Suspecting from the admission that Bethmann-Hollweg had made 2 days earlier to the British ambassador that Germany was planning to invade Belgium, Grey sent a telegram to Berlin and Paris, saying that he wanted pledges from both powers that they would respect the neutrality of Belgium so long as no other power violated it. He wanted a quick reply. The French agreed unconditionally late that evening. The Germans did not respond. In Vienna, Austria announced general mobilisation on the 31st. In its usual dilatory way, however, it also decided not to actually do anything about this until August the 4th. Also, Conrad was still dithering about whether to send the bulk of his troops against Serbia or Russia, much to Moltke's frustration back in Berlin. Okay, in the next lecture we'll look at events from August the 1st to August the 3rd, as a European crisis becomes a European war. See you then.